Welcome to another episode of the No Ceilings Podcast. I am Tyler Metcalf, joined as always by Tyler Rucker. Rucker, you're back from Vegas. Have you recovered yet?
Surprisingly, yes, which is, probably a first all time.
Upset of the century.
Yeah, upset of the century. Vegas was a heavy favorite in that category to, I feel like the older I get, the more difficult Vegas gets. So then I can't really be the guy that stays out till 5 a.m. anymore. But gosh, what a great trip. It was awesome to finally get to meet the No Ceilings crew, most of them. Metcalf, you had to be selfish and go to a wedding, but I heard the wedding was great. Feel like I sent you some funny texts while we were in Vegas, and now we're back. We did a couple content streams there. Thanks for everyone listening and for all the comments and stuff, but didn't feel right without you there. I can't fight this feeling anymore. How are we doing, Metcalf?
I'm fantastic. Based on how things sounded, it sounded like you guys had an awesome time out there, interacted with a lot of really great people. It also sounded like I drank significantly more at this wedding than you guys did, which is, speaking of upsets in rural Wisconsin, I'm out drinking you boys in Vegas, but,
well, some of us
weddings
have to work, we don't just get to go celebrate.
That's never stopped you before.
I'm a dual threat guy. What can I say? A lot of versatility. Guard 1 through 5. What can I go?
There you go. But we are still right in the heart of Summer League, and while we're not there, I'm still catching up on games. So if we don't talk about your team or a certain player, it's not because we hate them. It's just because I haven't gotten to them, and I don't like to speak on things that I'm completely ignorant of. So, obviously one of the players that I have watched a significant amount of, along with every other NBA fan, is the number 1 overall pick, Paolo Banchero, who has been incredibly impressive. Rucker, what have your takeaways of Paolo been? What surprised you? Is this kind of what you expected? Where are you at with the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah, so in 2 games in Vegas, I think he finished with 20 points a game. I know they've shut him down for the rest of the summer, but he finished with 20 points per game, 5.0 rebounds, 6 assists, 2.5 steals, shooting splits of 40, 50, 80. For all the nerds out there, I love you guys. I was very excited to see pretty much everyone I possibly could see after evaluating this class and the sophomores, but Paulo was obviously the one everyone wanted to get their eyes on. And it was funny seeing him in person because Corey, went and saw him. Corey from No Ceilings, our family, went and saw Paulo in the beginning of the year. And he was just like, man, Paulo's big. And I was like, all right, take your word for it. Like, unfortunately, we're in the first year of No Ceilings. I don't get to just go scout everyone I possibly want. But we're getting there. And actually seeing Paulo in Vegas, I was just like, man's big. Like I was just shocked. Like he's not only tall, he's just a beast. Mm-hmm. And I was very impressed watching him. He's going to be in the running for Rookie of the Year. He looked he looked like the hype was real. And I think that's the exciting thing for Magic fans. Like they've needed this number 1 option. They've needed this bucket getting machine. Paulo definitely looked like it in Summer League, and we'll be, watching closely to see if that can translate to the next level. Because doing it in Summer League's one thing, doing it at the NBA level against much, much better competition is another thing. What about you, Metcalf? What were your initial thoughts?
Yes, I should have started out with this, but Summer League is rife with overreactions, both good and bad. The only ones we're allowing are the good ones.
Apparently.
Yes. So all good things. Everybody love everybody. He looked incredible, and he kind of looked exactly kind of what we were hoping he would with that team as that offensive hub and that offensive creator. And he continued to show what we were saying for weeks, is that he was the best playmaker out of that entire class. And to get that at 6'10", 250 or whatever his exact measurements are, it's like, holy crap, what a combination of size and skill and athleticism. So all of that, I was really impressed. Nothing really surprised me. He probably shot from outside a little better than I anticipated. I don't think he's going to be that efficient for his whole career, but I also don't think he needs to be. I think if he's lives at 33 to 35%, that's it. That's fine. I think that's more than good enough because that'll force defenders to, just second guess and overthink and, make that hesitation. And he's proven at every level that he can immediately capitalize on that and make them pay for that hesitation. Would it surprise me if he shot in, closer to 40% long term? Not really at this point. There's nothing super mechanically wrong with his jumper. I think it just needs to find more consistency. And with age, that typically comes from guys of that caliber. So overall, just nothing has really surprised me. He's physically imposing, and he's getting to that spin move at will. It'll be interesting to see how effective that is or what his counters are once teams kind of hone in on that. But his just absurd size makes up for a lot of it. So even if you sit on that spin move and you guess correctly, okay, well, he's got 30 pounds and 4 inches on you. So what are you going to do?
Me and Corey were talking about this at Vegas, and it was just, we even said this on the stream, and I was like, Paulo is perfect for Summer League. Like, Summer League is absolutely a match made in heaven for Paulo Banchero, because it's, a lot of these guys competing in this, of course, are from the draft class, but a lot of guys are also second-year guys. A lot of guys are also guys who are in the G League that are just desperate to get on a roster. And yes, I will talk about this later with a certain player that I feel like me and Metcalf are ready to go to war for. Yep. But Paulo's going against, all respect to those guys, he's going against a lot of guys that might not be in a roster next year. He looked great. He looked like the guy that walked on the court every time and was like, I'm the guy. And you're going to have that swagger when you're the first overall pick, and that spin move's deadly. He looks like he's just going to be a force. He looks like a guy that, has been in the league for 3 years, because that's just how perfect Summer League is for some of these players, where I'm not saying it's pickup style, but there is a lot of that. It's where close. Metcalf, I saw you tweeted one of my least favorite possessions of all time for Summer League, that basically a guy dribbled for 20 seconds and then threw the ball erratically at the hoop. That happens a lot. There's a lot of ugly possessions in Summer League, but if you have the talent, you're going to stand out like a sore thumb. And Paulo was clearly one of those guys. Every time he's on the court, he's like, okay, this is one of the alphas on this game.
And my only, I don't even want to say concern, because I do think that a lot of it is a symptom of just that style of play that Summer League, brings out of everyone. Is, he's turned it over a million times, and some of that is him just trying stuff. So, you like the creativity, you like the vision with a lot of that stuff. Obviously, he'll need to rein that in, but with, a team with Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony and Markelle Fultz, I'm assuming those will get scaled back a good amount just based on his usage lowering. So I don't love the turnovers. I also don't think that he's going to be turning it over 6 times a game or anything. The other concern with Paulo was his defense, and I thought his effort generally looked really good. On ball stuff I thought was really impressive. Well, maybe not really impressive, but good enough, or, better effort and more consistent effort, both on and off ball, than he showed in college. I did think it was interesting. I think it was the Rockets game that they just kept running pick and rolls over and over again. When Paulo would run it on offense, it was to get Jabari off of him. And when the Rockets would run it, it was to get Paulo on ball. So, I thought that was a little interesting wrinkle. It didn't always work either way, but, overall, I thought his defense, just the effort and consistency of it, looked much better than it did at Duke. And it'll be really interesting to see if that carries over, and if so, how long, it carries throughout the season.
Yeah. I mean, when I watched him, it was one of those situations where I wasn't caught telling myself like, whoa, he looks bad. Like, he stands out defensively in a negative way. And this is also the part of the year where, like, guys are going to sit out now That's just what's going to happen with this next couple of games in summer leagues and the next couple of days. Like the teams are going to be like, all right, we've seen enough. And with Paulo, and what I'm getting at is like, now this is the time of the year you get to go dissect a little bit more deeply. And I'll be interested. Like, that's one of my things on my list is like, okay, I want to watch Paulo's defense. I want to watch a lot of these guys specifically, because this is such a big overreaction time. Like, it's funny being on social media. Like, even the No Ceilings crew, we were just like laughing at some, like, people would be like, oh my gosh, we took the wrong guy. And I'm like, they've played 2 games. What's going on? Like, we're going to talk about this later, but like, I have a list of guys that have struggled in summer league that are now stars in the NBA, and it happens all the time. So it's just funny, but the turnovers thing is definitely interesting. I'm like you. It doesn't worry me too much. It's just something to keep in the back of your head. I mean, he averaged 6 turnovers a game. Or wait, 5 turnovers a game in 2 games. It's a high number, even for summer league. So am I worried about that? Not really, but it's something that if he comes out the first week and is averaging 5 turnovers a game, it's like, okay, there might be something here. But yeah, Paul looked like the number 1 pick. He looked like he was well-deserving of it. He looks like he's going to be a damn good player, and he looks like the Magic got a potential force. I think there was a lot of really special tools that I was like, yep, this is exactly what we wanted Paulo to be. This is exactly why a lot of us were gaining some momentum on him at the end of the year when he was all of a sudden looking more comfortable at Duke. And I love what I saw. He didn't like warrant me away from thinking he was one of the top players in this draft.
Yeah, and I want to jump to someone who's been equally as brilliant and impressive in Chet Holmgren. But real quick, the last 2 guys I feel like have deserved mention, at least on the Magic, are Caleb Houston and Jared Rhoden. Both of which I've been really impressed with their off-ball offense. When Caleb Houston's shot is falling like it did in that first game, he looks incredible, and it's a completely different player. He never stops moving on offense. Just his ability to cut and relocate and give up the ball and make quick decisions, I think, is really impressive. So I think I'm already a little disappointed in where I ended up with him in my final rankings. I still think it should have been higher. And then Jared Rhoden's doing a lot of the same stuff, but not quite as effective. I really like the way he's cutting and relocating. Yeah.
On the Kings, right?
Is he on the Kings? I thought he was on the Magic.
Oh, okay, we should fire you. It's okay.
Yeah,
no, because I've had that problem.
Oh yeah, he's on the Kings.
It's okay. I'm gonna let that one slide. Because the funny thing is we couldn't stop talking about Rhoden at Summer League. Like the whole No Ceilings crew were like, man, he looks good. He looks nice. And he was one of those underrated guys I was excited to watch. And I left there like, man, he's a nice piece. Like, people might not realize this right away, but he can play. And he was so good at just being like, I don't need the ball in my hands. I'll make an impact. And that's what really kept jumping out. I mean, I think Nathan and Corey hit me a couple times like, Rhoden looks good. And I was like, yeah, he does. So, but Caleb looked really good. I thought Caleb was one Metcalf when I saw in person. I said, man, he's big. Like he's a big body. And he looks like he's got that frame that he's going to add like good weight on and be kind of a pest, kind of an annoying SOB to deal with on the court. But you saw that all he needed was a couple shots to go down. He just had all this different confidence. And defensively, I thought he shocked me. Like he made some impressive, just I was a little like, okay, they might have stolen him. This might be a highway robbery, but really liked what I saw from Caleb. I think he went to the perfect team. We talked about this before. Like he went to the team where it's going to be like, he is not going to be asked to carry the load as a rookie. I really do believe like he's still going to have the potential to just develop some confidence. He's going to be behind Franz. I think he's going to be able to come in and play smart, cut away from the ball, make an impact in minimal ways to let his game develop. So I definitely liked what I saw from Caleb, and the fact that you thought Rhoden was on the Magic, we need to fine you now, at least, $5,000 probably. No, I'm kidding.
Well, that's disappointing. No, well, see, that's just what I get for taking sloppy notes under the Magic Kings game.
We're too excited. I get it.
Well, someone who definitely has at least me excited is Chet Holmgren, and
Yes,
he looks awesome. He looks incredible. Yes, I know Kenneth Lofton had a really good game against him. That Kenneth Lofton game didn't really surprise me, and I think it was just that he was kind of a lesser known recruit based, in the mainstream. And anytime Chet gets moved or anything like that, it's always going to spark all of, oh God, he's skinny, what a bust, this guy can't play. But everything he does he does at a high level. So I've just been really impressed with him so far.
He looks awesome. Him and Paulo look fantastic.
Yeah.
And I even think a lot of people are jumping on Jabari. And I think Jabari's looked good. And I'm not talking about the shooting. I think I'll get to Jabari in a second.
Yeah.
Let's focus on Chet. But because I have actually, like, Rockets fans, if you're listening, I promise this is a good thing for Jabari. But Chet, man, gosh, he looked good. I mean, he just looks unreal. It's guys are going at him. Metcalf, it's the same thing we watched all year evaluating him. Guys are going at him because they're like, you're skinny. I'm going at you. What's the hype all about? And he's just like, fine, let's go. Let's tango. And, I was listening to Russillo and Bill Simmons the other day, and Russillo brought up a point. He's like, eventually guys are going to, when they get to the NBA and it's veterans, guys are just going to stop going at him. But I was also like, Chet's going to know that. And you just watch him on the court and in person. And me and Albert were pumped because we're like, we watched him before. Let's see if what we saw translate. And Albert and I kept looking at each other like, all right, we feel pretty good about it. Like, because he's flying all over the place. He's got some swagger. He's got some blocks. I've just been in awe. I think he looks exactly like what we're expecting. And it's going to be awesome because it looks like we potentially have a two-headed monster debate moving forward of Paulo and Chet. And I think Jabari will eventually get into that where it's like dealer's choice. What do you prefer? And everyone's going to debate, back and forth about that. But yeah, Chet's looked outstanding. He's been so competitive. He's just carried himself like he's like, I know I'm the guy. I know I'm good. I know we got something special going here, and Thunder fans should be pumped up. I thought that whole team is looking very fun. Presti, he was walking through that gym. He had a little extra pep in his step. He was just like, yeah, I had a good haul. We have a good future going.
Yeah, and what I love is that the Chet's defense, I feel like it looks exactly how it looked at Gonzaga. He's doing the same kind of stuff. Yes, he's inviting contact, but he's, ushering these guys into places where they can't do anything. So all of the defensive stuff, I'm like, yeah, okay. What has really, thrilled me about his summer league so far is what the offense has looked like. And all year we were saying, God, I think he's just scratching the surface. There's more passing there. There's more shooting. There's more on-ball creation. And he showed that. He's shown, driving from the perimeter, these mid-range step-back fadeaways, the transition three, shooting off the catch, shooting off the dribble, taking guys to the rim. Yes, he looks a little awkward because of how long and skinny he is when he attacks, but he's doing all of that stuff in a bunch of different ways that he wasn't allowed to do at Gonzaga when he was their fourth scoring option.
His efficiency has been absurd. I don't care what advanced numbers might tell me, but like he's having games where he's taking 10, 11 shots, and just dominating like all over the place. I also like he's been playing so damn hard in summer league, and it's like he's hitting the glass on the offensive side of the ball. He's trying to make these effort plays to create possessions, keep possessions alive. He's working his ass off. And this is exactly what you like to see in summer league. It's like a guy that's playing as hard as possible because he's just like, I don't care what level it is. We're hooping. And he's just a competitor. And that's what we've been saying about Chet all year is everyone's been pointing about like, oh, how skinny he is. But it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's not just that. It's also like, this dude is a grinder. He is a competitor. He's going to bring it every game. And we're seeing that. I thought some of the flashes offensively have been awesome. His playmaking's been awesome. He's just looked really damn good. And it's not a guy that's just like Paulo's look great because you just see the firepower offensively.
Right.
Chet's look great because he's seeing the floor on both sides and doing everything he could do to make an impact. They both look special. And I'm excited to keep watching Chet because I really do think, like, boy, he looks like it. And Paulo looks like it. And so far, Metcalf, I mean, yeah, Holmgren's just been unreal. I can't put words into it, but like, he's going to be a phenom his whole rookie year, and Paulo is too.
Yeah, it's the great case of where the first 2 picks feel like they should be the first 2 picks, and it's not like, oh my god, like, oof, they took him at number 2, or it's like, God, they just missed out on that guy at number 1. So it's neither of these teams, I think, are going to regret or be disappointed with either Paulo or Chet. And I don't think the Rockets will be disappointed with Jabari. We'll get to him later. But Jalen Williams is another guy who has been so impressive. And it's exactly what we were saying all season, his ability to play on or off ball. The basketball IQ and the passing on that Thunder team is going to be so impressive. What has really surprised me about Jalen Williams is how much more athletic he looks. I know what he tested at the combine, and that caught me off guard. But then it's like, okay, well, some guys just test really well, but they don't really implement it into live games as much. He's implemented it. Every cut, he's dunking, and big time. It's stuff that he didn't really show at Santa Clara, or at least that I didn't see at Santa Clara. So maybe I missed a couple games where he was doing that, but it felt like his more prominent on-ball role kind of diminished how athletic he was in college. And now he's showing that with how effective he is in transition and cutting and just getting in the lane and then finishing above the rim, which is something I really didn't expect from him.
I mean, I'm going to get a little crazy here, but I think he's looked like one of the best players in this draft. And I know I know people are going to be like, what the heck are you talking? He looks like he's going to play in the league for 15 years. I've been just so impressed, and it's not box score chasing with him. If you just watch his impact on the court, I got a little fun story. So was it the Rockets game? Whatever. We're sitting watching the Thunder game. I think it was Thunder Rockets. Everyone was hyped up to watch that one. We were like, we got there early, the whole No Swings crew, and we sit in front of like a group of 4 younger kids or whatever. And Jalen Williams' first run of the game, he ends up coming out. He hadn't scored yet when he gets subbed out. And someone behind me was like, I think that Jalen Williams is going to be the biggest bust in the draft. And I was just like,
Don't fight him.
You want a war? You got a war. Like, I was like, all right, here we go. I mean, this is J-Dub, friend of the program. So I was like, all right, here we go. And I'm watching the rest of the game because I'm like, hey, I trust everyone's opinion. You can have your own opinion. You're not going to piss me off too much. But also saying like someone's going to be a bust after one summer league game, I was like, come on, easy. So then J-Dub goes on and has like that second half. Him and Chet just took over, and he was dunking everything. Like, it was just like backdoor cuts, slam, reverse slam. He looked just awesome, and then he just goes crazy. Albert was basically standing up clapping at the top of it. We were just like, yeah, friend of the program. But no, it was cool. J-Dub looked great. And I've been impressed with him at Salt Lake City. I've been impressed with him in Vegas. I think it's him, Getty, and Chet. And they're playing beautiful basketball because they're moving without the ball. They're playing backdoor cuts. They're just, it looks fun. It like this OKC squad is going to be really fun to watch develop because we haven't even talked about Zhang. And I know Zhang hasn't been putting up big numbers, but he's shown some stuff that I was like, okay, like Metcalf, it's exactly what you talked about. He's going to struggle his first year. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. He's going to probably need some G League time. It's going to be fine. It's going to be okay. But he showed some flashes where I was like, my goodness. And he is humongous. He is tall. Like, so they got something fun brewing in OKC. Like, and it's just the dynamic of that roster, like the young core coming together where they all know how to play off the ball. They know how to play with each other. It's fun. And I think Jalen Williams you watch that Rocket game, they put him on Jabari to start the game. Like, they're like, hey, go. And Jabari was in hell for a little bit. Like, it just shows the versatility that J-Dub's going to have. I think he's going to be a really good piece. I joked and I was like, I'm going to bet him to be 6th man of the year. Like, I was kidding. Everyone calm down. But I was like, I need to find a sports book that gives me 100-1 at least. So, but no, I mean, being serious, I think he's looked really good. And I don't know, Metcalf, they got a haul. Presti strikes again.
Yeah. I'm glad that you mentioned Jang. He's done exactly what I kind of anticipated he would.
Yeah.
He's going to struggle all year, but as long as those flashes keep getting shown and he can, kind of string them together here and there for, more productive play on both ends of the floor, I think what he has shown has been encouraging. I think in the long run, that shot is going to fall at a higher clip. It looks really good. And, a couple more of those threes fall, his numbers look a lot better. People will start singing a different tune about him. I think he's going to be fine, even though this year's could be rough. And then Josh Getty, we got to just mention him. He's way too good to be there. He looks like Magic Johnson out there. I mean, he looks so goddamn good, and he's getting to wherever he wants on the floor. He can get to the rim with ease. His ball handling looks a little more advanced and versatile and dynamic this year. I love that they're playing him to kind of start forming some of that chemistry with Jalen and Chet. But at this point, it's like, this guy's way too good to be out on the floor.
Yeah, he's quickly climbing the rankings of this guy is one of the more like enjoyable players to watch in the league.
It's pure fun.
He's so much fun, and he gets a little wild with some passes, but I also think when you have that playmaking ability, it's like, no, you're going to look wild when you make a mistake because everyone's like, you're really crazy. And it's like, no, well, when he's throwing dimes, it looks unbelievable. We had me and Corey had people will say it's bad dad joke, but I think it was hilarious. We just kept trying to say to all the international guys when they made an assist, like we call those dimes in America. And then Corey tried to look up what is a dime in Australia, and they don't have it. So we were like, no, we can't do that joke. We were really proud of it. I might put it on a shirt. You heard it here first. Anyways, yeah, it was fun. We had a lot of fun. No, but Getty looks great. I'm really pumped to continue to see him grow. I love that they were playing him just like you said. Like, I get to a point always where I'm like, okay, shut it down. We've seen enough. But with him, it was like, no, this is great. They're getting some early chemistry going with these guys, and you could see it's working. You could see all those guys like playing with each other. So Getty's fun, man. It's fascinating because I just think like his stock is probably just soaring. Like Getty's gonna be so much fun 2 years from now, if not this year.
Well, so someone who has fans a little more hesitant is Jabar Smith.
Yeah.
And, we've mentioned him in passing, but let's dive into it. Obviously, I'm asking this facetiously, but have the Rockets ruined their future because of Jabari Smith?
No, not at all.
Thank you.
This is the problem with Summer League is if you don't go out there and dominate right away, everyone starts waving turning on the sirens and being like, uh-oh, it's a bust. And it's like, no, this is their first game after, months and months of workouts by themselves in front of, a bunch of executives in an empty gym, and then interviews and media and, all that crap. And now they're, all right, get ready. Here we go. We're playing live basketball again. Jabari was going to struggle. Jabari was either going to get red hot from outside and everyone was going to be like, oh my gosh, he's the greatest. Or if his shot didn't fall, it could have gotten ugly. And we've said this a lot of the year. We were like, if his shot's not falling, what's he going to be able to do? But this is what I wanted to get at for Rockets fans. and Metcalf, you can tell me I'm crazy. I think it's more important if you start having the later summer league games where you start finding some confidence. Like, I love that he struggled his first game. The second game that we watched there, he was like, it was honestly kind of fascinating to watch because he just kept shooting. He was having like the worst shooting night of his career, and he was like, I'm shooting out of this slump. And it was like, me and Corey were like, and the whole No Ceilings crew were like, I almost respect it because he's just like, I don't care. I'm shooting myself out of this. He made one once. I think he like screamed an obscenity at the top of his line. He was just so mad.
Yeah.
But like, he was also showing some impressive defensive possessions there. So you're seeing a little bit of development because he's got punched in the mouth. You know, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Mike Tyson. And then the third game, he has his best game. His last game, he had like 19-9. I thought he looked fantastic. He was more efficient. He looked calmed down. You want to see those. You want to see the develop. Like, each game, he's getting better. Each game, he's getting a little bit more confidence. Because I said it before before we even went to Vegas. I think if a guy comes out and has 35 right away, that could be dangerous. Because they're like, look how good I am. I'm the guy already. But Jabari looks like a hard worker. That game he struggled. If you were there, you saw he was doing everything. He was like, come on, get out of it. Like, he was frustrated, and it was just a frustrated of giving a shit. And I thought he still tried to make plays defensively. He still had some nice possessions. And last game, he looked really, really good. So just be patient with these guys. Can we not overreact when I understand everyone gets pumped when someone looks good, but it's like, just when a guy looks bad doesn't mean we're going to be like, okay, he's the worst player ever. Like, just relax. Houston, he's going to be fine. What about you, Metcalf? What do you think?
Yeah, and the big thing with him is the shots just hasn't fallen yet.
Right.
And, but he keeps shooting and keeps playing like it has been. And I think, like you said, that's really encouraging because it shows that he still has confidence in it and that he's not being timid and passing up open shots or not looking for his own shot. If that was the case where, on these pick and pops, he would just immediately look to swing it and not even look at the hoop, then it'd be like, oh, like we're 3 games in and you're already losing faith in what was the main selling point or one of the main selling points with you. So I think the shot's going to get there. It's going to be fine. He's even shown some of these, mid post kind of back a guy down, spin, get to the rim. That's been really nice. The ball handling has been it's not been great.
Yeah, not great, Bob.
There were a handful, let's say, of transition possessions that immediately died because he couldn't handle, really. And I was hoping to see a little bit more development in that area for him than there has been. But with the Rockets, with Jalen Green, who's probably going to have the ball most of the time, and
right.
Kevin Porter Jr., and, even Şengün in the post, I don't think it's going to be as much of an issue as it is with the summer league team because he's facing a similar guard issue that he faced at Auburn.
Right.
What's gotten me really excited about this Rockets team is what we said in the draft recap show. That defensive pairing of him and Tari Eason is going to be so much fucking fun, like 2 or 3 years from now, where they're going to be dominant together. And we're already seeing stretches of it where there's this one in the Magic game where RJ Hampton brought the ball up. He got Jabari switched onto him. Why, I don't know. He tried to use his athleticism to drive past Jabari. Jabari stayed with him step for step, never crossed his feet, cut off the drive. RJ had to kick it back out to Paolo, who then drove to the free throw line. Tari cut him off, and Paolo spun for a fadeaway mid-ranger at about 18 feet, and Tari was right in his face, and they missed a shot. It's like, oh my God, that is fun. When you have 2 guys who can move like that on the perimeter and force turnovers and always be in the guy's face, regardless of whatever position they are, that is so important and deadly for a defense moving forward. So even though they're rookies, and I know young players typically aren't good defenders, I think they're immediately going to make that Rockets team better. Now, obviously not a top 10 defense right away, but they're not going to be the worst defense in the league who can't stop anyone from getting to the rim.
Yeah. I thought Tari's looked incredible. Tari's looked very, very good. Like, he looks like one of those guys where it's absolutely perfect. Like, summer league's just perfect for him, but he's just playing his butt off. He's been flying all over the place. It's one of those things where we talk about when you're evaluating guys, like if they disappear, it's a bad sign. Tari's been visible every second he's on the court because he's just been that energetic. He's really been active. He's been, I'm one of those guys. I had him probably towards like 18 or something. I just was a little skeptical. And right now I'm like, woof, okay, I might have missed there. And, he just looks like a guy that might return top, 14 value pretty early on. Like, he looked great. He looks like you know what it is? It's the classic. He landed in the perfect spot. And Jabari's shown some stuff defensively that everyone's obsessing with his struggling from outside shooting the ball. Jabari's shown some stuff defensively that I'm like, my goodness, it's already happening. He's going
to be an all NBA defender.
Yes, he is. And if you go watch that Spurs game that he just had his best game, he has some possessions of switching onto a couple guys and sliding his feet. This is what you talked about in the beginning of the year, Metcalf, like when he was at Auburn. Like, the versatility that he has at his disposal and potentially could have is like, stop fascinating with the 3-point shot, folks. Like, this is a potential all NBA defender. Like, it is freakish how good the fundamentals are at times. And that's where you're watching the game. It's like, I think those strides forward are more important in summer league than like a guy shooting 55% from the field. It's like, you need to see the growth in various areas. The shot's going to come for Jabari. Like, the last thing I'll say about Jabari is anyone that's ever watched The Replacements, the speech that Shane Falco gives about quicksand, the whole second game when Jabari, I think, went like 3 for 19 or something, I was literally like, that speech is just on replay right now inside of his head. Because it was just, he just couldn't do anything right. And it was just, you could see how frustrated he was. No shot would fall. He'd have a wide open jumper, clank. So I think he's going to be fine. And the fact that he had that nightmare game and the next game has his best game, that's exactly what you want to see. But Tari, damn, he looks really, really good. I mean, they got one there.
Yeah, and we mentioned the pickup style that Summer League frequently, brings out in games, and Tari thrives in that setting. It's that high pressure, chaotic, balls flying everywhere. You're running in transition, you're cutting, you're driving, you're getting mismatches. He's looked incredible, and that's the exact setting that he thrived in at LSU. And I think that that's going to pretty much translate immediately for him. I still am curious. I'm not concerned, but I'm just curious to see what he looks like when the game slows down. Defensively, he's this high pressure defender, but I've had a little more faith in how he's moving his feet and staying with guys and not gambling as much. So I think that looks good. Offensively, I'm really intrigued to see how does that translate for him when he's not just running in transition all the time, or does that corner three, continue to improve. So I'm really excited about where he's currently at and how quickly that could accelerate for him.
Yeah, he's I was just thinking about this when you were talking, like, he's so fascinating because I wonder if he's almost going to be like a new wave of like a microwave scorer for a big man, like as a forward, where we always used to think of these guys like Lou Williams and guys that can come off the bench and really just their energy, their impact could really carry a team. And I wonder if that's Tari maybe as like a forward off the bench where he just come in and just you're letting him run wild. And some games he's just going to be in a rhythm and you're like, hey, we can't take him off the court. We got to play him down the stretch. But can he also groom to be a starter long-term? Because I think he's got that potential. And now you have a luxury of having two young forwards with serious defensive ability. Like you just talked about earlier, Metcalf, that, those two growing together, it's going to be really, really damn fun. If they click, that could be just a force. And then, the prodigal son, Alperen Şengün's there still. So it's going to be fascinating. I loved watching Houston's team. For everyone on social media that apparently was kind of dogging on Josh Christopher, like, calm down. I thought Josh Christopher looked awesome at Summer League. I was like, my goodness, they got another asset. He looked great to me. So very interesting. Social media is fine.
My only gripe with Christopher is that there has been a lot of Josh Christopher.
Yes, a lot.
A little bit of a black hole when he gets the
Yeah.
ball. But every team kind of needs one of those guys. And if the shot continues to develop and that kind of scoring versatility continues to develop, then he's going to warrant a lot of those shot attempts. So he's been good. I would like to see him make the extra pass once, maybe. But the defense has been solid. The physical scoring game I've really liked. So I think he's on a really promising just trajectory in his learning curve. Two other guys on the Rockets I wanted to mention are, I thought Daishen Nix has looked really good as a passer. And if that can continue to grow and he can continue to make important, contributions with either just his slashing or even some of his defense, I thought has looked pretty solid. He could be a really important connector and facilitator in that starting lineup towards the end of the season, because he's one of these guys who can get the guys the ball pretty much anywhere on the court. And then just deep sleeper, Eric Coleman. I really like this guy. I have no idea where he came from. I think he was with the Spurs G League team all year, but he's had some awesome blocks, has knocked down the three, has had some huge dunks. I really, really like him. Obviously he's not going to be a superstar or anything, but I'm really rooting for him to make a roster.
Holman looked good. I was very impressed with Nix. He was generating some buzz. I wrote about him in my summer league preview because he was just generating some buzz in the G League to end the season. And Houston's been reportedly really high on him. I think they gave him a lengthy contract even. I'm sorry, off the top of my head, Rockets fans. I know.
Yeah, I think he has a multi-year deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal when they did it. And really, I was impressed. I was like, because I was lower on him as a draft prospect because I was like, he's just far away. Yeah, he looked like a guy that was just lost when he was entering the draft. And then now it was like, the strides you've taken in 1 year, like that is remarkable. And he really did have some plays where I was like, man, that was a nice play. Like, yeah, it was just one of those guys that I'm like you, Metcalf. I thought that's the underrated piece on your roster that could be very valuable, as like you're saying, as a connector. I liked Nix a lot. I thought he was one of those guys that probably won't get enough attention just because of everyone else that's creating all these buzz and putting up these big numbers. But I really liked the way he played. And I thought in 1 year, he looked a complete different player. Like that's the dream. If you're an organization, seeing that much maturity and growth in 1 year, like, woof. So I'll be fun. It'll be interesting to keep watching, what goes on with him moving forward. Maybe there is a spot in the rotation because Nix, Christopher, Washington, they kept experimenting with all those guys as kind of like point guard roles. And I thought Christopher looked great, but was a little just chaotic. I thought Ty was, could disappear for a little bit, although he had some flashes. And then I thought Nix just looked composed of the three. He looked under control and really was playing at his speed, which is like he was making everyone come down to him. He was comfortable. So be interesting to see what happens.
All right. So that kind of wraps up the big three. I'm going to let you choose. What direction do you want to go here?
Oh boy. I got a long list. So just let me get 1 second. Trying to talk about who I saw in person that really impressed me. I got to give some love to Isaiah Livers. He looked good.
Yeah.
He looked really good.
I'm excited to talk about the Pistons because
let's do it. Let's talk about Detroit.
Obviously, we'll get to the big two names, but more importantly, Isaiah Livers, he has to lead off the Pistons segment.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he? I'm so excited for an Isaiah Livers breakout year. God, I'm just praying that this dude can stay healthy because he's so good. He is so good.
One of my favorite guys I watched in Vegas. And it's Not even close. I thought he looked perfect for a rebuilding team that wants to take that next step, that just had a good draft. And now all of a sudden you add Isaiah Livers into that impressive draft this year because he missed the majority of his rookie year. I think he played some games to end the season, but this is a nice piece. And he looked exactly like what he looked like at Michigan, where it was he took his shot when he had his shot. He made the right plays, played great defense. I posted something on Twitter and I was talking about like how much I was so excited to watch him, and he looked great. And someone was like, check out his defense. And I was like, I know I checked out of his defense. I love him. This is my favorite pick from a couple of years ago or a year ago. So, but it was just so exciting to watch because he knows his strengths.
Yeah.
And
he just knows how to play.
I can't stress that and people are like, duh, that's important. It's like, no, but some guys got to swallow their pride and realize like, this is my game. I'm going to do what I do best. And if it's not there, I'm moving the ball. I'm looking to make my teammate get some success. He was just great. He's going to be an important piece for this Pistons team moving forward. I loved what I saw from him. I thought he looked so good, Metcalf. And he also knows like, hey, I belong. I'm going to make some noise this year. And when I say make some noise, I'm not saying he's going to average 20 a game, but he's going to average. God, but he's going to be a guy that puts up 15 some nights. And like, damn, he was good. Like he was just, I love him. Absolutely.
I'm all in. I've continued buying his stock just his entire time at Michigan, his just all through summer league. He's been so impressive. He's just one of these guys, like you said, he just knows how to play the game and he knows who he is as a player and plays to that. And that's something that coaching staffs and front offices notice. Not everyone needs a 20-point per game scorer. Those guys are few and far between. And, the odds are you're not going to be one of them. So what else can you do? Can you knock down an open three? Can you attack a closeout and make the extra pass? Can you defend at a high level? Can you defend multiple positions? Can you block guys at the rim? He was doing all of it. I love the way his game has continued to develop since he was a freshman at Michigan. And, if he's healthy, which given his track record could be a big if, I think there's a real high level 3-and-D wing there.
He's got the potential to be the guy that has to be on the court in crunch time minutes.
Yeah.
Like that's how highly I think. I also think he's got the long-term potential to be like every playoff team's trying to get Isaiah Livers in free agency. Like I'm saying like way down the road when he's a vet.
Jay Crowder-esque.
Yes. Like Jay Crowder, PJ Tucker. Like you're just like, if we could get Livers on this team, it's such a big boost. But I also think Detroit's probably like, he ain't leaving here. Like we're keeping him forever. But it's just because it's like he's a smart basketball player, plays the game. He gets his shots. Mm-hmm. He can shoot it the crap out of it from deep, but he also gets after it defensively. He knows where the ball's supposed to go. I love him. I think he just really knows how to play his role. And his role is not being the guy for the Pistons. His role is going to be like, I need to be the guy that, when it's my turn to take a shot and I'm wide open, I'm making them pay. When it's my turn to move the ball and get somebody else a shot, I'm doing that. And those guys are, like you said, those are glue guys. Those are guys that get you from the rebuild to the next step. And I absolutely love them. And now we're having this podcast be all about Isaiah Livers. We don't need to talk about anybody else, Metcalf.
No, I think we were going to need to devote a full hour and a half episode to just Isaiah Livers in the future. But no, everyone should be ready for the Isaiah Livers breakout year because I do think it's coming sooner rather than later. But the two big names for the Pistons are obviously Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren, who I thought both were incredibly impressive. First with Ivey, in their first game I watched is, right at the start of the first quarter is like, oh, he's kind of struggling with the speed and physicality of it. And then, 10 minutes go by. It's like, oh, okay, he figured it out. And it felt like he was almost too hyped up for the game and too ready to get out there. And just the brain, the body, all of it was going at 1,000 miles an hour for him. And then he kind of started to dial it back and just play. And it all looked so much smoother for him. And as just envisioning him play in the backcourt with Cade Cunningham. It's like, God, that's going to be so much fun for them. Bummer that he turned his ankle, but it's just a turned ankle, thankfully. So whatever, he'll be fine. I think he's the real deal. And then Jalen Duren, it's rare that we get a 17-year-old who's the most physically imposing guy on the court. I've been really impressed with what he's been doing. He's shown a little more passing than he did at Memphis. Obviously, I know there were passing flashes there at Memphis, but I think he's going to have so many games where he just feasts because of the gravity that Ivy and Cunningham demand. And then he'll just be there in transition and on those backdoor lobs. I think he turns 18 in December, which is just wild. Pistons fans should be over the moon about the direction their team is headed.
Duren looks exactly what he needs to look like.
Yeah.
He knows his role early on. He's been active. He's been physical. They were playing him kind of like quick spurts, and it was kind of annoying. And then one of the games we saw, he was playing like extended minutes, but he's a load in person. And I think he's been great around the basket where it's like, if he gets an offensive rebound, it's like, oh gosh, everyone just looks like, oh, well, he's going to slam it. We can't stop. It's just, he's going to be fine. I'm really excited. I was very impressed watching him. Ivy was really interesting because his first game, I thought his box score looked better than how he played.
Agreed.
And what I mean by that is just, I think he ended up with 26 and 6.
Something. It was an impressive line.
Yeah, it was a nice line. And if you saw that line and you didn't watch, you'd be like, oh man, he took over. And you worded it perfectly. He was too hyped up for that game because you saw some drives. He was just like out of control. It was like a sports car with no brakes, just like going all over the place. And then we went to go see his next game because I was like, this is the game I would think if you're Ivy, you calmed down and now you're ready for what's going to happen because they were putting him in positions to be a point guard. And I think he was trying to do too much to prove it in the first game. So then he just was all over the place, but then he ended up closing that first game really strong. And it was like, okay, now it looks like things are a little, like you were saying, Metcalf, things are a little calming down. That second game, he had 11 points in 5 minutes. And I turned to, I think Nathan or Albert or even maybe Nick, and I was like, he's about to go nuts. I was like, he might drop 35 because it looked like everything slowed down. He had like that step, he had that swagger. He was like kind of looking at the crowd, nodding his head, and then this stupid rolled ankle. I was like, cool, sweet. He was just about to drop 40, but it looked so impressive because it looked like everything slowed down. He already had that overhyped first game where he had so much energy, and then he was like, okay, I got the first one out of the way. Now let me go to work. And it was a bummer, but I think Pistons fans, like you're saying, should be pumped out of their mind. They got great pieces alongside. The whole Pistons team was like courtside watching all those games.
Yeah.
They're excited too. Like Cade looked like, oh gosh, this is going to be fun. And I was very impressed with the Pistons team in general. They have a fun core grooming together. What else you got, Metcalf? Who else did you want to talk about? We can talk about anyone you want.
Yeah, and we got to talk about Johnny because
let's talk. I'm very pumped to talk about Johnny because I'm sick and tired of everyone on social media going after our boy. So let's talk about it, Metcalf. I had a feeling we were going to talk about this.
Yeah, so I think this Wizards Summer League team is a worse viewing experience than the Memphis team last year.
If anyone's
the Memphis Tigers, the Memphis college team.
Oh, okay. If anyone's ever watched Midsummer, that's what it's like watching the Washington Wizards. If you haven't watched Midsummer, don't do it. You will never look at a movie the same way. Please don't do it. Anyways, it's not great.
I don't think there's one other player on that roster who is going to be on the Wizards.
The problem is it's a lot of guys, and I'm not trying to dog these guys because, he's got Isaiah Todd's on the roster. I kind of liked Isaiah Todd as like a little bit of a sleeper last year. But here's the problem with this Summer League roster is there's a lot of guys that are desperate to get on an NBA team that are been living in the G League, been living overseas. They don't want to go back and do that. They don't want to be stuck in that position again. They're trying to make some noise. And the worst part of that recipe is that Johnny, his first game, was trying to play team ball. He was passing everything. I was like, man, he's so passive. He's literally just passing everything in the world. Everyone I've seen on social media is talking about, like, man, he can't get around anyone. And I think it was just because he was just physically dominating guys in college that you have to learn how to do this again. You're at the NBA level. Everyone is stronger now. You have to learn how to use that physicality. I'm not worried about Johnny at all. I think he's had like the games where everyone's going to freak out and they're going to be like, oh, he's a bust. He's a 10th pick. He's a bust. And I'm like, guys, this happens a lot. Like, I had to do this, Metcalf, because I was ready to go to war.
Tell him.
Chris Middleton, Summer League, 7 points a game, 3 rebounds, 38% from the field. What else do I got? Nikola Jokic. I don't know if anyone's heard of him.
He sucks.
8 points, 6 rebounds, 45% from the field in 5 games. The Middleton one was in 7 games, by the way. Chris Paul, 11, 5, and 5, 37% from the field in 4 games. What else do I got? Steph Curry. Everyone could be like, oh, he played good in it. Well, he was 17, 4, and 4 on 32% shooting in 5 games. Paul George, 15 points, 7 rebounds, 33% from the field. Draymond even 10 and 7 on 30% on 12 games. What else do I got? Your boy, Karl Anthony Towns, 12 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 39.6% from the field. And then the legendary Trae Young, around 15 points per game, 5 assists per game, 30% from 3. I'm rounding on all of those. So, no, they're not exact. But my point is, calm down. It's going to take some time. Like, Johnny's playing on a team of guys that are desperate to get on it, and Johnny's trying to be the teammate of, like, he's throwing some gorgeous passes.
Yes,
and
thank you.
I watched that game, and I was like, man, he makes some beautiful passes, and he was very passive with the ball. He was trying to get rid of it. He was not trying to force. The second game I watched, I was like, he's doing a little bit better job, but I said at some point he's got to take the ball and be like, to hell with this. Like, I'm going to show you what I could do. And that's the reality of summer league. Not everyone's going to be dominating. And I think we've talked about him before. Every single level of competition he's ever played, he's had a different role asked of him, and he's figured it out. So, no, I'm not going to react over 3 or 4 summer league games of struggle. I think Johnny's going to take that and be like, all right, I get back to work. And Wizard fans, we're going to be okay. We're going to be fine. Calm down. Also, Bradley Beal will grab him and be like, will you please go and shoot the ball and stop trying to make 15 assists a game? We need you to score.
Yeah, so that part that you mentioned about his role, I think is so important. And it's changed at every year of his development, and he's figured it out every year. So is he going to win Rookie of the Year? No. Is that going to matter in the long run? No. Every time he gives up the ball, it's the last time he's seen it until they get the ball back, if not longer.
Yes.
And, that's the frustrating part about that is that it's an exact contradiction to what we were talking about earlier, where front offices and coaching staffs notice the guys who are making others better, who are doing the little things. They don't want guys to go out in summer league and chuck up 40 shots to get 20 points. They don't care about that because they already have guys who can do that at a much higher level. So I thought Johnny was moving really well without the ball. I thought he was making some really nice cuts that, he was never found on. Some of the passes that you mentioned were really, really impressive. And, it's a shame that I was told over and over again that he couldn't pass at all in college. It's funny how that turned out.
Yes.
And, his left hand keeps coming up over and over again. It's like, oh, that's just as good as his right, where there's this one live dribble pass that he made to a cutter from, 40 feet away with his left hand. I'm like, oh, there it is. There's another where he drove to the middle of the lane, got bumped, throws up a left-handed floater, goes in, easy, smooth. I'm like, awesome, there it is. There's that ambidexterity that what made him such a dynamic scorer. Now, It's not, there is stuff that Johnny needs to work on. So I promise I'm not just going to be, it's everyone else's fault. He has been way too timid. And he is at the first, the first time one of his moves gets cut off, he's too eager to pick up his dribble and get rid of it then. And that's got to change. I think it will continue to grow as he gets more comfortable with the speed and physicality and, just has more ball movement and better players around him. I think that will improve. There have been a couple really nice drives that he's had. There's one on Isaiah Stewart where he drove middle, went behind the back, kind of faked a step back, got Isaiah to bite on it, drove, and then he messed up his footwork at the rim, and it allowed Stewart to recover and block him. He's had a couple like that where it's like, okay, here are the 3 to 4 dribble combo moves that you're connecting, and then he's just kind of getting sloppy or messed up with his footwork at the rim that allows the either help defender or his primary defender to recover. Long term, that's going to work itself out. And then defensively, he's been really good. I really like the work rate, the communication, both on and off ball. He's gotten back cut a couple times. I'm not too worried about that.
Everyone does. You're jumping to the NBA. League. Everyone does. Calm down.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It just all of it. He hasn't been good. I'm fine admitting that he hasn't been good, but nothing he's done is like, he can't play here. He sucks. Look at the little things that aren't just the scoring. Yes, the shot needs to get there. Yes, the scoring confidence needs to, find its level again. I think it will. I think it'll all get there. But look at the passing. Look at the off-ball movement. Look at the rebounding. He's still one of the best rebounders out there. And then look at the defense. It's all really good. So, yes, it's a big area that he's struggled in. But it's really just one area.
I think the biggest part, too, and I agree with you completely, but it's also like, remember, this is a guy that was a 7 points per game as a freshman in college, and then almost was a 20 point per game in 1 year. And, watching Johnny, I even thought this before, like, it wouldn't shock me if he's a guy that the second half of his rookie year just clicks. Yeah. And Cade we were all freaking out about Cade Cunningham. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, he's a bust. He's terrible. What are you talking about? And I was like, well, Cade he got hurt in summer league. He didn't have a preseason. He didn't have a training camp. He was all of a sudden just thrust into the action, figuring out. And then Cade clicks, and it was just like, oh my gosh. And it happens at different times for these guys. Like I wrote a piece at No Ceilings, NBA.com, first plug of the day. We're an hour in. You're welcome.
That's free.
It's free. But I wrote an article about this. It happens not just for point guards. It happens for all types of players. Is Johnny's thing is he plays the game with his gears, with change of gears, with hesitations, with feel. Now he has to relearn how to do that against stronger guys. Like he was a guy that physically imposed other weaker defenders at college. Now he's got to learn to go against bigger guys. It's going to take some time. You're not going to just walk on there and be Jalen Duren, who's is a physical freak at summer league and probably in the NBA. Like that doesn't happen all the time. So I'm not worried about him at all. I think this is going to be one of those situations where he's going to get some playing time because he's doing the other stuff. He's playing good defense. He's moving the ball, but he also needs to be more aggressive offensively. And I think that will come. That's also going to take a veteran being like, hey, I respect what you're doing. Shoot the ball. Like you're open, shoot the ball, be aggressive, get your shots. But, I'm not kidding. That roster is full of guys that have been living in the G League. And it's very easy for someone to say like, well, they were good in the G League, but it's also like, they don't want to play in the G League again. They're trying to get on an NBA roster. So yeah, it's easy for us to be like, oh, those guys should be making extra passes and stuff. But also it's like, they're probably thinking that's not going to get me on. Yeah. They're like, I need to score 20.
So I definitely sympathize with it. It's just a frustrating style of basketball.
For sure. They had a possession. What was the one you clipped? I think no one else touched the ball for like a full entire possession.
Yeah, no, then 12 of the seconds, the guy just stood in place dribbling. It was infuriating. But yes, he did have it for the full 24 seconds.
Full 24.
And which is amazing. About 5 feet.
Which is amazing at Summer League. And it wasn't to end the quarter. It was just a possession, and you're like, gosh. So What else you got? I mean, I know
Okay.
we're getting lengthy in it, but we got plenty still we could talk about.
Yeah. Do you want to just let's go a little bit back and forth, just rapid
Yeah.
fire on quick thoughts. I want to touch on the Knicks.
Yes.
Oh my God. I am getting dangerous and irresponsible expectations for Jericho Sims and Quentin Grimes. I think those dudes are legit and are two of the best young pieces on the Knicks. I kind of expect Jericho Sims to make an All NBA defensive team at some point in his career, if not multiple. The way that dude moves is freakish, and he needs to be in the conversation for best athletes in the league way more. And obviously, the vertical stuff is jaw dropping, where he's hitting his chin on the rim. That's absurd. It's what he does laterally, though, and he's almost a 5-position switch defender. The way he gets down in his stance and slides his feet, his foot speed, his agility, the footwork, it's incredible. And now he's showing flashes of being a grab and go guy. He hasn't done much with it, but he's grabbing rebounds, taking it across half court, and then giving it up. And it's like, oh, okay, well, if you have a 7-footer with that type of athleticism doing that, and you're getting into your offense even quicker, it's like, oh, okay, here we go. Let's do it. Obviously, freak lob finisher. He does this thing when he catches the ball, though, where he'll bring it down, take a dribble, and then do like some fadeaway hook shot. And, so many young players do that, and I hate it. It's infuriating. It's like, just dunk on these dudes because you're bigger than all of them. Quinn Grimes might be their best guard. Obviously not including, I'm going to exclude Jalen Brunson from that. I think Quinn Grimes is going to be their best guard, and Corey and I have a joint piece we're going to put together for next week over on NoCeilingsNBA.com. It's free. So yeah, I am in love with those two guys.
Grimes was a leading candidate for Too Good for Summer League. I loved everything I saw from him, and he had his game where I think he had he was one of his worst shooting performances, I think. And I was like, I was the most impressed from that game. I was just like, I would shut him down. I don't care if he was, 35% from the field or whatever he ended up with. But I was like, that dude was the best player on the court. It wasn't close. He looks sensational. He really looks like he's going to be a real solid piece. I would not trade him. There's something there. We're talking, and also for everyone that don't remember, Quinn Grimes was a projected top 10 pick when he went to Kansas, and then just had a nightmare year, transfers to Houston, rebuilds his game, and it looks like all that talent that we were all looking at as a prospect that we thought he was going to be a top 10 pick is now like, whoa, there is a complete player ready to, just be unleashed. Jericho looked really damn good. I know exactly what you're talking about. It drove me crazy. He did it. We were in the small gym and he did it right in front of me. And I was like, what are you doing? You could dunk over both of those guys easily. But he got it. And he was right under. And I was like, just go up and slam the shit out of it. And he literally did a turnaround hook fading away. I was like, you just made life miserable. What are you doing? So, but he looked damn good. And he was moving around. He had some offensive rebounds where I was like, oh, gosh, this is a freak. And he's just – the Knicks got some stuff growing. They got some grooming prospects. They got some players that are really trending in the right direction quickly. And no pun intended, Emmanuel quickly. But Grimes looks unreal. Yeah, he looks fantastic. I'm really excited to see what he becomes this year. I'm going to piss some people off, but I think he could be their best player. I love RJ. But I think Grimes eventually could be one of their best players. Like, Grimes could reach territory of I don't know if we could trade Grimes because he's like what you saw the development in 1 year. If he has another one of those, it's like, holy crap. And I know how good RJ is, excuse me, but I love Grimes. I think he's really damn good.
Yeah, and then I've been really impressed with Montero's just point of attack defense. I thought he's really good there.
And then I had a battle with everyone at No Ceilings Crew in Vegas. I was like, no. They all liked him.
No, just specifically his point of attack D.
Yeah.
The rest of it's been meh for me. But the point of attack D I thought looked a lot better than before. And then Ferran Hunt, he's a guy.
Yeah.
He's gonna make a team.
He's
Um,
gonna.
he's a guy. All right. What else you got?
Montero, I was being a little harsh on. He looked fine. I just wasn't like in love as everyone else. Hunt looked outstanding. I was giving Albert some crap because he thought I was a psycho before the first game, and then Hunt had like 7 steals, and Albert was like, "Oh, okay, cool." What else I got? I got a long list. Peyton Watson showed some serious signs. I liked him. We talked about Jared Rhoden. Blake Wesley's looked very good. I'm ready to eat crow on that one. I was a little shocked. Did you see his first game, Metcalf? It was the funniest thing ever.
No. So I haven't watched him in depth. Okay. Yeah, I haven't watched him in depth, so I'll reserve any thoughts.
So here's a little fun story for everyone that's been listening all year. You know how we've talked about Blake Wesley, and I will say I thought he ended up in the perfect spot.
Mm-hmm.
We go into the small gym. We get great seats. It's all of us. We're ready to watch the Spurs. And the moment they get the ball, it ends up in Blake Wesley's hand, and he goes down and takes like 3 dribbles and pull up from the elbow, clanks it. And we all just looked at each other, and I was just like, buckle up, boys. And then he literally has a phenomenal game. And I was like, okay, I'm about to get ripped apart on the internet. He's looked good. He's looked great. Him and Primo have done a good job playing together. Branham, I think he's going to be okay. He's going to take a little longer, and I think. But he's also having the Jabari Smith factor of like the strides are coming with each game. Trying to think of anybody else. Keegan Murray looks pretty damn good.
Yep. I thought Keegan looked really good. It sucks that Sharp got hurt right away.
Yeah.
That one baseline fadeaway that he had was a really nice shot. It was also exactly what me, you, and Jake Rosen talked about, with everything being predetermined, where he bailed on that drive really early and settled for a really tough jumper. And it looked like a move that his trainers have had him do 1,000 times in an empty gym. It looked nice. It was smooth. Would have liked to see him go to the rim or do something else with it. But then I've been really impressed with Kian Johnson too.
Yes, thank you. I thought I was crazy.
No, I thought his passing looked significantly better. Still a little erratic, but the idea is there, the vision is there, the intention is there, and then just he's really using that athleticism to get to the lane and then create either for himself or others from that spot. So I've been really encouraged by from these last couple of games with him.
Bryce McGowan's looked outstanding to me.
Yes, he's already a better passer than anything he showed at Nebraska.
I agree. I think we're going to be talking about that one for a while. I watched a couple of his games. I've been like, oh my gosh, he's going to be a really good pick.
Just right at the start of their first game when they won the tip, and then they give it to him to initiate the offense. I'm like, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
And then he immediately runs a pick and roll, delivers a perfect pocket pass to Nick Richards for a huge dunk. I'm like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
And then he had a couple just driving dumps, driving kicks, where it's like, oh my God, Bryce, where was this in Nebraska? Why were you settling for 35-foot pull-ups? Like when you could be doing this? So yeah, I'm really excited by that.
He looked under control. He just looked composed. I was just like, this looks great. Andrew Nembhard, but he didn't put up huge numbers, but he kept having plays that I was like, man, this dude's he could just play. He's just great. Matherin looked great. Who else they have? RJ Nembhard for the Cavs looked fantastic in the one game I watched. I was like, man, this dude can play. I was like, woof. What else I got? I got a couple more.
I thought Mark Williams looked a little jumpy on both ends of the floor. Is kind of like freshman Mark Williams again. So I'm hopefully that's just a speed nerves type thing, and he calms down a little bit. But it like his shots around the rim, it looked like he was rushing them. He was jumping more contesting at the rim than he ever did at all this entire year at Duke. So that was a little disconcerting, but hopefully it's just nerves and that calms itself down a little bit. And then Kai Jones.
I fell for it. I fell for it. I'm really mad at myself.
The outside shot selection was one of my least favorite things I've seen. And the outside shooting was brutal. What he did when he actually decided to attack the rim, I thought was way more encouraging. And it's like, oh, okay, can you do this like 90% of the time? But some of those decisions on his part were like, what's this? What happened? What are you doing?
I left out on Kai Jones and in on JT Thor.
Yeah, no, I'm still in on JT Thor.
JT Thor showed me some good stuff. He looks awesome. He put on some good. Like I was like, whoa, JT Thor looks great. Kai Jones had that game where he went 0 for 10 from 3, and I swear, like by the 5th one, I was like, no. Like every time I knew it was coming, I was
stop. No. He's dead already.
Stop it, please. And I felt bad because he was just like, I'm so damn open. I gotta hit one.
I just need one.
He's an unbelievable athlete. Every time he gets near the basket, he dunks the crap out of it.
Yeah, when he drives and cuts, the body control, the athleticism, it's like, yes, do that. Do that.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm not there. I don't think I'm there.
Yeah,
we'll see. Sure. I hope I'm wrong. I always root for everyone, but I'm not there on him. But JT Thor, I was very, very intrigued by. What do I got? I'm going to say his name wrong. Is it Keita on the Kings?
Neemias.
Keita. I wanted to say Neemias.
Keita.
He looked good.
Keita, I think. Yeah. Yeah. No, he was awesome at Utah State.
The fact that he looked legit. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, just the fact that outside jumper seems somewhat reliable. That's huge for him. I definitely think he's a guy who's going to stick in the league for a bit.
He looked awesome. Keegan, I'm just going to throw this about Keegan. It was funny because we watched a number of Keegan Murray games. I mean, I had to support the prodigal son. He had a couple games where you looked up and you're like looking at the stats and you're like, man, he's only got 4 points. Like we're in the second quarter. What's going on? And then you would look up at like the middle of the third and be like, how did he get to 18? Like it was just one of those.
Yeah.
He kept just all of a sudden just quietly. You'd be like one game he was struggling to make anything and he all of a sudden had 15. I was like, that's the quietest 15 ever. And he ended up with like 20 and 9 or something. It was like, where did that come from? And then I thought I was going to look at his stats and be like, oh, he was 3 for 15 from the field. And he was like 6 for 12 or something. I was like, what? I was just like, this makes no sense. I think he's going to be really, really damn good. I think the Kings got a great player. So, and I liked Jaden Hardy from what I saw. I really do think Corey was even with me, and Corey famously saw the 0 for 11 Jaden Hardy game this year. That was the one G League Ignite game Corey saw was Hardy go 0 for 11. And Corey turned to me at one point and he goes, he looks completely different. Like he just played with poise. His outside shot wasn't falling, so he was working to get in between traffic and get some easy shots. And I liked what I saw from him. But yeah, McKeff, that's all I really got for now, unless you got anyone else you want to touch on.
I don't think so. The Warriors, I haven't seen the Wiseman game yet. Moody looks awesome. He's going to be so good. Kuminga.
I'm a little worried about Kuminga, but I think he's going to be good.
He struggled to create for himself and was getting visibly frustrated by it. So it'll be interesting. I still think there's a lot to be intrigued by and excited about with him, but I'm not quite sure the upside is necessarily there. And when I say upside, I mean like what he was projected as by a lot of people coming into the NBA.
The thing with Kuminga I think is really important is if you watch those games, they're putting the ball in his hands a ton. They might be like, hey, we don't care.
They're purposefully making him uncomfortable.
Yes, which is what they did with Jaden Hardy. Boom, roasted to everyone that told me I didn't know what I'm talking about. I think they're trying to groom him as a better playmaker because they've just force feeding. Like you've had 3 trips of Thanksgiving dinner and leftovers, and they're just keep feeding him food. They don't care. So So, yeah, I think he's going to be fine, but he's looked a little rough. But I think it's because they're trying to make him a playmaker, trying to do this stuff. Moody's looked awesome. Wiseman looked great in that first game. I think he was exactly what you needed to see. Last guy I want to make sure to mention is Ochai Agbaji. Looked great. He looked great in the game we watched.
Shame he's old, though.
Yeah, I just kept saying he's old, though. You know, I loved him. He looked really, really good. He's going to be a good player. He was just lighting it up. And I was like, well, we overthought this one. Everyone overthought it because he's old. But honorable mention, I got to say, is Luke Travers was just absolutely electric as a basketball player. And I yelled at Maxwell because Maxwell said he didn't like him. And he had a glorious mullet. He just kept making all these amazing passes and plays on defense. And he also was hilarious that he would walk through the crowd and no one knew who he was because he looked like a 15-year-old with long hair. And I was just laughing hysterically because I was like, no one knows that this is an NBA player just walking through the crowd. So, yeah, that's my honorable mention. But, man, Metcalf, I loved a lot of these players. I'm really excited to see this upcoming season. And glad to be back with you. Glad to be back on the pod. Thank you for don't ever leave me again. Okay?
Yeah. So we ran a little long today, but we had a lot to catch up on. This was a lot of fun. Rucker, tell the people where they can find you, where they can support you.
I'm at Tyler_Rucker on Twitter. And I'm going to be at NoCeilingsNBA.com. I'm actually brainstorming a couple pieces. I'm excited to write. I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to go first because they're both going to be pretty big monsters. So I'm trying to figure out which one I want to go with first. But Metcalf, I'm excited to hear that you and Corey got a little piece about the Knicks. That's exciting. So thank you, sir, for being back in my life. And if you ever leave again, I'm going to hunt you down. So thanks.
Well, once again, I'm Tyler Metcalf. You can follow me on Twitter at tmetcalf11. You can find all of our No Ceilings merchandise at noceilingsnba.bigcartel.com and all of our written work at noceilingsnba.com. It is 100% free. Just click that subscribe button while you're over there to ensure that you never miss anything that we publish. You can follow us on Twitter at NoCeilingsNBA and on YouTube at NoCeilingsTV. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and a 5-star rating. Until next time, see ya.